Hello and welcome to day 6 of my Advent of Code series for 2020. So, if you missed any of the previous videos, be sure to check out the playlist with all of the previous Advent of Code videos up here. And today we are going to jump into day 6's problems called Custom Customs. So here the idea is we are now finally on our plane, and what we need to do is we need to help the people on the plane deal with this questionnaire where you mark letter A through Z for whether you answer yes to a question. Each person is on a different line, and each group is separated by 2 lines. So this is just an example of what our input will sort of look like. And yeah, so pretty much we have to find the sum of the counts of the answers where anyone in the group put yes. So I highly recommend you go ahead and try this out yourself, and we're going to jump into my code once we're ready for that right about now. Okay, so first thing I do is I have a function which reads in our groups from our input file, so that's just splitting on 2 new lines because that's how the groups are separated, and then that groups thing gets passed into our part1 function. So our part1 function is pretty simple. I'm just going to walk you through it right here. So what we're doing here is we are initializing a count at 0, and then I'm looping through each of the groups, and I am creating an object called unique, and unique is the set of, I'll explain this little string thing right here. Pretty much what I'm doing is this is just to get rid of any sort of white space. I was too lazy to check whether there were actually spaces or tabs or anything like that. I think there are only new lines in the end, so this is a little unnecessary. You could just replace with a new line. This is probably faster anyway, though. Not that it really matters for a problem like this. But yeah, so pretty much what we're doing is we are joining the string on split on any white line. So that's going to go ahead and give us a string with no white space in it at all. So then once we do that, we are converting it into a set. Remember, since strings are lists, you can just do that directly and it will use each character as an object. So what that's going to do is that's going to get rid of all of our duplicates, and we're only going to be left with our unique things. And then from there, we can just get the length of that, and that's going to give us how many unique answers there are, which is how many different things people answered yes to. So once we have that, we just go ahead and return our count, and we get our answer. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into part 2. So part 2 is we realize that we have to tweak the thing slightly, and we don't need to do the ones to which anyone answered yes in the group. We have to identify the questions to which everyone answered yes in the group. So this is just going to be switching it from having one instance to having every line have an instance. So go ahead and pause this video now, give this video a try, and we'll jump back into it with my code right now. So scrolling on down to my part 2. So the way that part 2 works is we initialize a count yet again. This time I'm just looping through the groups yet again. But here what I'm doing is first, let's break down this statement for what we're assigning to people. So what I'm doing here is I am splitting the group on every single line. So that's going to give us each individual person's responses. So then you can see I am mapping the set function to that. So what that's going to do is it's going to take in each of those lines and create a set of the things in that line. So this will give us all of the unique things on each line. There probably will only be one instance of everything on every line anyway, but this is just going to be useful so that we can use the function that we use down there. So then I have to turn that back into a list because maps aren't subscriptable, and the way the next line works needs things to be subscriptable, so I just turn that map into a list. And then we just assign that to people. So now jumping down to the count thing, what we're doing here is we are just adding the length, again, similar to what we were doing before, but then what we're actually counting is slightly different here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the first element of our people array, so that's going to be the first person in the group, and we're calling dot intersection, which is a built-in Python function that sets have. So what that's going to do is that will provide the logical intersection, which is like applying an and between 2 sets. And that's going to do that for every single set that you pass in later. So this little syntax right here, which I think some beginners may not have seen before, is a list expansion. So what this is going to do is, because the way intersection works is you have to pass in not a list of sets, but rather just a bunch of different sets. If we call star on a list, that's going to expand the list, and instead of passing in just the list of sets as an argument, it's going to pass in all of the sets as an argument. So that is essentially just calling intersection from the first element on the rest of the elements in the set. So this will even work if the group only has one person. So that is great too. We don't need to add any sort of edge case there. And then we can just go ahead and add that to our count, because the length of that set that we get as a result of this intersection is going to be how many questions everyone answered yes to in that group. So then we just go ahead and add that to our count, return that, and there we go. So you can see my answers down at the screen below. And that is it for day 6. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. Go ahead and get subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any of the future Advent of Code videos, and check out the playlist with all of the remaining videos that you may not have seen yet up here. Goodbye.